So the Donald Trump clown show continues, and today Trump got really upset when asked about the quote gift from Qatar regarding the private jet, and also too, I want to give you an update on the tariff situation. So let's just jump right in.
President, what do you say to people who view that luxury jet as a personal gift to you? Why not leave it behind?
You're ABC fake news, right?
Why not?
Only ABC. Well, a few of you would. Let me tell you.
So the joke with this kind of stuff is you don't know if it's real or not until they officially deny it. So he's going to deny this whole private jet thing, but in a different way than way you may think. So watch how they twist this.
You should be embarrassed asking that question. They're giving us a free jet. I could say, no, don't give us, I want to pay you $1 billion or 400 million or whatever it is. Or I could say, thank you very much. You know, there was an old golfer named Sam Snead. Did you ever hear of him? He won 82 tournaments. He was a great golfer. And he had a motto: when they give you a putt, you say, thank you very much. You pick up your ball and you walk to the next hole. A lot of people are stupid. They say, no, I insist on putting it. And then they putt it and they miss it. And their partner gets angry at them. You know what? Remember that, Sam Snead. When they give you a putt, you pick it up and you walk to the next hole and you say, thank you very much.
Respectfully, sir, as a businessman, some people may look at this and say, have you ever been given a gift worth millions of dollars and then not received anything?
It's not a gift to me, it's a gift to the Department of Defense. And you should know better, because you've been embarrassed enough, and so has your network. Your network is a disaster. ABC is a disaster.
So from Trump's point of view, and this gives you a real good inside look of who he is. If someone offers you money or something of value, doesn't matter where they come from or what their motives are, you take it. That's Trump's point of view, right? So, I mean, that's essentially what corruption looks like. And it's been like this for a long time. That's who these people are. I mean, it shouldn't be any sort of surprise, but it's crazy how brazen it is. So how they're changing the story originally, it was reported that the gift from Qatar was going to go to the presidential library, use the Air Force One, and then later he'll be using it for private use. Now the Trump people are changing the story, saying, no, it's a gift to Department of Defense, and we have to take free gifts. I mean, we just have to. And anyone who's against this is Trump tweeting out, they're losers. That's literally what he's saying. He's like, hey, it's a free gift. Top dollar for the plane. Anyone can do that. The Dems are world-class losers, MAGA. So that's sort of his response. If you question him, you're fake news. If you don't like what he's doing in terms of corruption, you are a loser. That's according to Trump. Taking the plane, free or not, will still cost tax dollars or taxpayers' money. Basically, you need to retrofit the thing to be a mobile White House, right? Be it security concerns or others. I'll read a little bit. It says here, the White House about transferring the luxury configured Boeing jet to Pentagon, which would oversee its retrofitting into a makeshift Air Force One, but a private contractor would have to rip it apart to turn the jet into a flying White House for the president with secure communications and classified upgrades, right, according to the former Air Force officials. So don't necessarily think it's totally free. And obviously there's massive corruption with this. I mean, to me, it's obvious, and I'll just let you guys make your own mind on that stuff. Regarding the trade war, Trump made the announcement, and they're both sides are lowering the tariffs by 115 percentage points. So I do appreciate people pointing out. So Chris, when we talking about 115 percent down, isn't the same as 115% percentage points? Yes, you're correct. So thank you for the correction of the language, but I'm pretty sure you guys understand what we're talking about before. But I do appreciate comments, right? I try to get things right, and that's why we have a community together on this stuff. Let's watch what Trump has to say on this, though.
And we take their word for it. Their surrogates and them directly said, we don't want to do this anymore. And so we were satisfied with that. In addition, yesterday we achieved a total reset with China after productive talks in Geneva. Both sides now agreed to reduce the tariffs imposed after April 2nd to 10% for 90 days as negotiators continue in the larger structural issues. And I want to tell you that a couple of things. First of all, that doesn't include the tariffs that are already on, that are our tariffs, and it doesn't include tariffs on cars, steel, aluminum, things such as that.
And whenever he brings this stuff up, I always want to mention this, is I'll be curious if anyone makes a stink that BYD is not yet in the USA. There's a lot of Chinese brands that aren't in the USA because Trump always complains that, oh, why don't you, open up markets in China for all of our stuff, which I always think is a bit ludicrous, to prefer frank, because we do sell a lot of American goods in China. And in fact, some of the stuff that, we're talking about consumer stuff, but some of the stuff is also regarding to farmers, like soybeans, these kind of things. It's a trade, right? We trade, and depending on, what your country needs and how much your consumers buy, or what your particular industry needs. And so this is why interesting stuff is that we're talking about various industries that may or may not have different needs. And it sounds like the USA and China want to, continue the relationship, but some of the things they may decouple. And so that's what we're trying to figure out. And I think it's a big part of the negotiations is which industries we're going to focus on and which ones are we going to, leave unchanged. Trump is calling it a reset, but remember he caused this whole trade war thing. And the way China had mentioned it would be, the person who tied the knot needs to be the person who unties the knot. So right now, though, it looks like we're going to be negotiating. Let's watch more of what Trump has to say about this.
Or tariffs that may be imposed on pharmaceuticals, because we want to bring the pharmaceutical businesses back to the United States, and they're already starting to come back now based on tariffs, because they don't want to pay 25, 50, or 100% tariffs, so they're moving them back to the United States. I spoke to Tim Cook this morning, and he's going to, I think, even up his numbers, $500 billion. He's going to be building a lot of plants in the United States for Apple, and we look forward to that. I really do look forward to that.
So he's claiming that he talked to Tim Cook in the morning, and Apple's going to build a whole bunch of plants. That's according to Trump. I want to show you guys this because it's a natural reaction to be, hey, is what Trump is saying true? Because he often lies or just makes stuff up. So this is actually coming from a Mac publication, and there's lots of those kind of news sources out there. I like Apple. I have Apple products, so I read this stuff from time to time. And I mention that because this is not political, right? Because some publications are political and they'll take a certain side and that kind of thing. But a lot of these tech things aren't really. It's like, is the iPhone coming or not? Are they building a factory or not? Right? It's not really political. So this says here, Trump claims Apple will build a lot of plants in the U.S. with a $500 billion pledge. And I just want you to show you guys how sort of tech news will cover it. That's what Trump claims, right? Because that's true. That's factual. In terms of Trump is making the claim. Is it happening? Well, this is according to 9 to 5 Mac. They say it's not out of the question that Apple may have nascent plans for building new plants that Cook and Trump have discussed privately. More likely, though, until Apple shares something different publicly, it's safe to assume the company will continue a strategy of doing most manufacturing overseas, right? So that's how you have to take the Trump at his word. Is like, well, that's what he claims, but I want to hear from someone else because Trump often makes stuff up. Even the financial news, supposed to be CNBC, they say Trump says he talked to Apple CEO Tim Cook after China rollback, right? And that's the correct headline. Trump says he talked to them. Whether or not Trump is lying about that, who knows? You have to ask Trump. But again, he makes stuff up. Before he made up a call that he talked to President Xi. And you do want to talk about this stuff because a lot of it that Trump says and a lot of the stuff that, his people say is smoke and mirrors or just flat out BS. Also says here, earlier this month, Cook told investors about the company's tariff strategy on earnings call. He said Apple is currently sourcing American-bound products from production locations in Vietnam and India, right? So that's what the talk has been before. Not that we're going to move all these plants back to USA. It's Vietnam and India, right? So it is true that Apple did make some sort of pledge, but pledges can change. And why do I mention that? Because often what Trump is doing with these numbers, when they, when you watch Fox News, they just take whatever Trump says as fact. But what they're doing is they're getting companies to say something, or they're just kind of, how can I say, being overly boastful or aggressive on how well the meeting went, and then reporting that as being definitely going to happen. And the numbers that you're here often is over the next like 5 years, could even be 10 years, right? So it's often inflated. Now, this is a story that just came out of Bloomberg that sort of illustrates this point. So this is here, SoftBank, Stargate venture with OpenAI snags on tariff fears, okay? So before Trump was announcing, we're getting all this money and we're going to have all this investment in USA to build all this AI and robots and you're all going to be rich with AI, right? But when you read through it, you'll see that it's definitely smoke and mirrors. I called this stuff out a few months ago. You can actually find my old videos of that saying, guys, it looks like a bunch of BS. Even Elon Musk, who I don't necessarily agree with him all the time, but in this particular point, yeah, I agree with Elon Musk on this one. It's a bunch of BS, meaning that the money may not actually arrive. And it's actually kind of funny. So we'll read it here. SoftBank Group's plans to invest $100 billion in artificial intelligence infrastructure in the U.S. have slowed, with economic risk stemming from Washington's tariffs holding up financial talks. Right? So they made this pledge, but is the money actually going to arrive? SoftBank founder Masayoshi Son and OpenAI co-founder Sam Altman unveiled the Stargate project in January with promises to begin deploying $100 billion immediately. That's the video I made a few months ago. You can find the old video, and raise that around to $500 billion over time. More than 3 months later, right? This is now an update on the story. SoftBank has yet to develop a project financing template or begin detailed discussions with banks, private equity investors, and asset managers. So there's no money at the moment. Do you guys see how this game is played? You just make some whatever nonsense number that you want to say, and hope that no one ever calls you out on it. So that's why we check up on this stuff. So they made a pledge right before, maybe 500 billion, and I might as well just say 5 trillion at this point, right? Because it doesn't matter because the money's not coming anyway, right? There's no money. Preliminary talks with dozens of lenders and alternative asset managers, from Mizuho to JP Morgan to Apollo Global Management to Brookfield Asset Management. I guess they're going everywhere to get money. Kicked off earlier this year, but no deals have ensued as financiers reassess data centers in the wake of growing economic volatility and cheaper AI services, meaning that are we overpaying for these things that you're promising we're going to make a bunch of money? And when China's DeepSeek thing came out, that came in like far, far cheaper than the American projection one, that seemed like this might be a whole waste and a bunch of nonsense. There is money and people making in terms of the pumping up of this sort of scammy type investments. So there's money to be made in terms of, right, people basically like used car salesmen, those kind of people like a Trumpy friends and stuff like that, selling you a bunch of smoke and mirrors. The same way Elon Musk always says, hey guys, invest in Tesla. We're going to have robots and you're all going to be rich off every person buying 5 robots. And they really do say 5 robots. Find my old videos on that. It's like nonsense. If you're having a hard time keeping up to where the tariff levels are, you are not alone. Okay. So that's why they mentioned, say, SoftBank is not sure what's going to happen, in the future. So it's hard to predict anything. I have a hard time, and I follow this stuff daily along with you guys who watch the channel. It's hard to keep track of what's going on. So this is a Financial Times did a really good chart to show the progress of where the tariffs have been. So you can see some increases here from February, March, April, and April 9th. And then the announcement that both sides, both China and the U.S., will decrease tariffs by 115 percentage points. You can see right there. So that's a good way to track it. So if you're being, a bit confused on what's going on, you're not alone. This has been a lot of volatility and changes. China basically came out, they made their statement and just said, hey, read our statement that we made, and then we're going to continue talks. That's it. That's actually was the big announcement, essentially, is that the U.S. and China lowering the tariffs, both sides, for 90 days, right? And they're going to continue talking about it. So we'll see what happens at the end of the 90 days. Let's take a look at what Hassett has to say about the current situation.
That Secretary Bessent and Jameson Greer are going to continue talking to their Chinese counterparts. If you look at the agreement, we even have the names of the people that we're going to be talking with. And so I think that folks who are able to accomplish this
so he's bragging, oh, hey guys, we know who's going to be at the next meeting. We're doing awesome, right? So they have to paint this as positively as possible. I'm not saying it's totally negative, but remember, this is a whole Trump caused dilemma, and essentially again, he tied the knot, and then he responsible for untying it. But we need to see what's going to happen in the next 90 days. Now, Hassett was asked about possible empty shelves. Was that maybe why you guys backed off so quickly and panicked? We'll see what they have to say here.
Potential for a big pull forward where businesses try to get absolutely everything they might need for the season, for the year in from China as soon as possible. Is that what you expect? Is that lumpiness? What's the economic impact?
Well, some of that was visible in the GDP release we saw in the first quarter, right? And so I don't think the inventories actually picked up as much as they should have, given the imports that we saw in the first quarter. But now I think that basically what people could expect, what markets could expect, which is why they're celebrating so much, is normalization of things. And so we're going back to where we were with a 10% reciprocal tariff, and that should be fine. I can tell you that we look at what's going on in the shelves every day to make sure that there aren't shortages shortages, and we've gotten briefings that suggested that there wouldn't be, even with the tariffs where they were, shortages at least until the end of the
So
summer.
see, this is quite interesting. So they're actually admitting there that they saw that the shelves could be empty, but they're saying shortages towards the end of summer, right? So actually quite soon. And before they were denying that, oh, everything's going to be fine, China's going to be hurting. Like literally now they're admitting after they made the agreement to keep talking more with China that they were worried about empty shelves. You can literally hear him say it right there. Towards the end of summer is what they were up to. So what goes on from here? So this is what's Bassent's saying right now, talking about further meetings. So let's see what he says.
Mr. Secretary, this is a 90-day pause. What comes next? Do you have plans to meet with your counterparts again?
Becky, as I said, the good thing is we had a plan, we had a process, now we have a meeting mechanism. We loosely christened it the Geneva mechanism, so I don't know where we'll meet again. A very agreeable meeting here. We got a lot done over 2 days, so I would imagine that in the next few weeks we will be meeting again to get rolling on a more fulsome agreement.
So that's what's going on. They say they're going to meet again. Where? Who knows? But I kind of doubt it's going to be in either China or U.S. Maybe it'll be Switzerland again. Who knows? We'll see. And the markets did react positively to this. So there is, again, a 90-day pause on the tariffs. At least, for now. Who knows? Trump might tweet something stupid. I mean, the problem is you just can't trust Trump. He makes stuff up and changes his mind quite frequently. But honestly, when you read through and go through everything, it's pretty clear. He's not in it talking about Trump, and also his people aren't in it to help the American people. They're just in it to make themselves rich. So that's my thoughts on this. Want to hear yours? And I'll catch you all in the next video.